Okay, hi, this is Patrick Stephen from Temp-Cast Masonry Heaters. We've got a project here today we want to share with you. It's going to be a top venting brick build. Should be kind of a neat little project. We've got some wood storage built in, some shelving that we're building in for bakeware. We also have a baking rail that will go around the top of the unit so that you can hang pots and pans, skillets and things up there too. So that might be something that's available. We're going to show you the top vent and how those pieces go together. That's not a video we've done very much. We've done top venting, but we're going to spend a little more time trying to show how those pieces each individually get stacked up and how it finishes so that it's a little more understandable. So, alright, we hope you enjoy the video. Alright, one of the first things that's going to be different is with the leveling pads, we actually move them apart 1 inch. And so the way that we do that is that we take our level, put it right up against the ceramic wool insulation, and we're going to make a cut. So we've got 1 strip. This is how I make all the cuts for these. And with the top vent, I just recommend that you cut most of the roll up that way. You should still set aside that 44-inch long piece for the blanket on top. But then the recommendation is to make these strips about 1 3/4 inches, maybe 2 inches across, and you can use that for the entire build. So there's no, you won't have to follow that cut sheet in the back of the installation manual. You can make all of your pieces just like this. I'll show you how we're going to do the clean out on this particular heater, because over here we're going to have racks for storage, and over here we're going to have wood storage. And so how do you get a clean out in here? And I'll show you what we're going to do here as an alternative method. So we're going to level these in, and then first thing you're going to notice is that they are separate by 1 inch because we need to make more room for the downdraft channels. And so that's the first thing that's different. Part 1 and part 2 get laid 1 inch apart, and then we're going to stick a folded piece of insulation right in between them to seal that gap up. Okay, so this is exactly what it should look like when part number 1 and part number 2 are done. We've got a folded over piece of insulation here. What I like to do before I lay the rest of my parts in is I kind of dry stack them in there just so that everything is centered properly. And then once they're on there, because they're a little bit wonky as far as the way that they sit on the bottom, I just trace them with a pencil, and then that way I can apply all the mortar that I need to in the right area so I don't have it in the wrong spot. And then I set the pieces down and get that first course set. So we'll do that now. Now, because this is wider, the part number 6 isn't going to fit the same way. Part number 6 only comes down to the bottom of this leveling pad as it is. Hopefully you've got a little bit of extra mud in your bucket from your leveling. When you get to this part, which isn't until everything else is set here on the first course, you're just going to mortar it in as you would. You'll use refractory mortar right here where it sits down, but you'll use regular mortar to get it sealed in place. Alright, so with this heater, we're going to have wood storage and baking storage over on the sides, and so we can't get a clean out down here. With the top vent, we typically only have one at the bottom anyway, and we have one at the top. And so the reason for that is because all the flue gases come down on this side, and then they shoot over to that side. So we typically have one here to get to the bottom of the downdraft here and across the back. And then we have one at the top over there so we can get down the downdraft and then and then on top for access to the horizontal surface just below the chimney. So with this one, because these 2 areas are blocked, we're going to cut a clean out in here, and that'll be accessible through the second air intake door. So you'll open up the air intake door, and we'll pull this plug out to have access to the back of the bottom of the heater, and then the downdraft channel on this side and the downdraft channel on that side. So we'll make this cut, install this piece, and we'll show you how that works as we go on.
Okay, so this section goes relatively quickly. And you want to keep moving kind of quickly through it. You want to get these courses on quick and then really focus on getting this one on. Once this one's on, strap it tight and then use your mallet to adjust anything into place, check your level. It's a good time to do that. We're going to put the oven floor on, and that can go either way. So at this point you can decide if you want your oven here or if you want it here. Every kit works that way. So we'll get the oven on, and then after that we're going to get the bake oven walls on, and then we'll start showing you the transition to then it starts to become different as far as what pieces go on for transitioning to a top vent versus the standard base vent that's in the installation manual. Alright, so now we're in we got the bake oven walls on. I got the first piece that is different here. Normally this piece is another 4 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier. The nice thing about the top vent conversion too is that it cuts down on some of the heaviest pieces that are at the top of the heater. So this one goes on, it's normally, just like I said, it looks just like this, but it's bigger and it overhangs a little bit more. And then another one goes on like that. So what we're going to set next is the bake oven dome, and you're going to see how that's different too. There's a notch here because you're going to get a sidewall that comes up. And what it's going to do is the flue gases are going to come up. They won't be able to get through this way. We're forcing all the flue gases to come down and go down this downdraft channel right here. So we'll set this. We'll show you again what it looks like once it's set. So I thought I'd take a second to show you how to reload this if you haven't seen this before. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to push down on this, release the pressure, you're going to grab this. It goes down into the bucket. There's a little, it's pretty messy, but there's a little knob that receives this. And so you just push down here, and then you push down as you pull up, and then the plate moves down in the bucket. And then you have a nice full gun again. We put the nozzle back on. Advance that a bit. Okay, and then there's this. So I'll show you how to set this bake oven dome. I tip the back up like this. Get these done ahead of time. Okay, and you can see the notches here. The part that goes there comes with the top vent kit. It's this piece right here. Got those tapered insides for these two pieces. And it sits right in here like that. So then you can see all the flue gases will come up. Once this wall is up here, come up here, there's a lid right here, and the flue gases come all the way down here and head all the way to the bottom. So we'll do that now.
we're just kind of showing you the top here. So these are the top of the dome. Flue gases come up right through here. Come up, they're going to hit the lid that we're going to throw on all the way across here. There's this opening in the side over here, and everything will go down the downdraft. So that is, we'll throw the lids on next, and then we'll show you what it looks like.
Get the lids on. Just wanted to point out that there is, they're different. So this one is sloped right here. This one's got a little notch cut out of it. And that is to allow the flue gases that are coming back up this channel here to be able to pass over more smoothly. So there, what happens next is we're going to put the downdraft channels on. On top of this lid gets set another piece here and another piece here. And then a lid on top of that. So the flue gases come on up, they go under that lid, and it is inside of that lid where the chimney is cut in. So there's a hole that's cut into that lid so that the chimney can slide down in there. Okay. So we'll get those downdrafts going on now, and we're just gonna stick, the difference here too is we're gonna get 2 layers of insulation. So normally, if you read the book, you're gonna get, it says just 1. But for this installation, if you remember, we widened out the base pads. So instead of just getting a single layer of insulation, we're going to get a second layer to give more volume inside of these updraft and downdraft channels to accommodate all the flue gases. Okay, wanted to show you this cleanout cut as well. That's for this piece up here. It's a bit of a cut to do. It requires some pretty decent overcutting on the back side. So it's 2+ inches of an overcut in order to get this 5" by 5" plug out of there. And the reason for that is because this piece slopes in order to get that deep. So it's a little bit of a tricky cut, but that's your clean out cut for the top of the updraft, which gives you access to all of this area directly underneath of the chimney pipe and access directly to the chimney pipe and the ability to clean this downdraft channel. Okay, so we got the downdraft channels up to here. So on this side, so the flue gases come out and they come down here. On this side, the only difference is there's an extra small piece right here to extend this flue channel up, because this is the open space above the lid. We'll put a front face on this in a minute, but the flue gases will come up this side here and come out up here. So the only difference on the left side is an additional 3-inch piece here to get this additional height necessary. On this side, first two pieces are identical, they're to normal, and then this piece is actually cut shorter. And it's the top piece, it's the same as this piece here, it's just cut down a few inches shorter, so that it equals the top of this. When the flue gases come down, it's got this flat top and they dive down this downdraft channel here. We'll put a piece here to match the height of this lid, and then we put another piece to match all four sides here, and then we lid it together. So that's the top vent. And before we put a lid on, obviously what we'll do is cut the hole in that lid to accept the chimney. Okay, so on top of this downdraft channel as well, where this piece goes on, right here, just to get, as we said, to get this up to this height here, there's your gap here. And so you're going to put 2 strips of insulation against this as well to close that gap up. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, I wanted you guys to be able to see what this looked like up here. So we've got the downdraft channels here coming up, and that's that extra little lid we just put on, and we gasketed in between that with a double gasket so you can kind of see that. Just wanted you to see what it looks like up here. That is the updraft channel. So all the flue gases come up through here. This will get a lid, sits on top of here, and we'll put another piece just like this over here, and then it's lidded. So this becomes the upper chamber. So that's what that looks like.
So we're back on the job today. Yesterday and today are a little bit of a mix-up. We got started really late yesterday. Normally what I'd like to get done in the first day when I'm doing an installation is getting the core completely done and then getting the coursing, the brickwork, up to about door height so that that can all dry nicely before we try setting the door. What I wanted to talk about with the core now is how to cut in the top vent damper. So ideally you can center the damper and you can figure out your chimney, and typically I get the chimney installed first because then I center my heater as much as I can on that. And so in this case we can center it here, but we can't center it front to back because of the way that this is laid out. So when you lay this out on your lids, I put the lids on the ground, just assume they're the way that they are. The lids are 1/2 of an inch narrower front to back than the actual top of the core is. It's actually going to be more like 1.5 inches total, or 3/4 on each side now, because we've taken an extra inch wider for the top vent on each side. So in order to center it, just a couple of pointers. When you put these together, this break line here is not the center because they have as you can see, they overlap here by 1 inch. So the actual center line is about 1/2 of an inch in from here. So that would just a pointer there. And then what I do is set this right on here and trace a solid line around all 4 sides. for the cut that goes fully deep. And then you'll see here there's also a dashed line. And that is, I do another cut that's only about an inch deep, or maybe halfway through here. And that's so that once you slide this damper in, the damper goes all the way down to the bottom of this lid when it's sitting up there. From here on this little, then you tuck in a 1-inch strip of insulation so that it's fully gasketed around that damper as well. And then the blanket goes on top of that and rolls up the sides as well. Okay, the way that this works is this scaffold, I call it the damper scaffold, it sits on top of the brickwork, the inside of the brickwork. So the brickwork comes up, sits on that lip of that brick, sits on the lip of the brick here, and it holds this in position right where you have it. And then this fits down flush to the bottom of this, to the bottom of the lid. So that you go to insulate the top of this lid, if you can take about a 3-inch strip and you can tuck an inch of it down in and then run it 2 inches up the side all the way around. That way when you fill that 2 inches of mortar on top of this lid, it pushes that up against the side here as well to get a good seal, and allows, since the core will move up and down much more than the outside wrap, it allows the core to move up and down without this moving, so it can actually plunge up and down inside of this. So that's why this scaffold is here and why this needs to sit and why it needs to be sleeved inside of this, because the core needs to be able to move up and down. Otherwise, if it was rigidly fixed to this lid, as the core moved up, it would crumple your chimney pipe. Okay, so this is just a close-up here. Remember, here's the center line. This is not center. The solid line here, that's the actual damper, and then the dashed line is the extra cut for the insulation. All right, just wanted to show you kind of the finished product once the cut has been made. So you can see that the damper is sitting all the way down to the floor now, which is what you want. I'm just checking this dry, put the pieces together, make sure the damper fits, because after you make your cut, if you set your caps and then you're trying this for the first time, and there's some little piece that's not allowing the damper to sit down, now you got to pull everything off, and it's a huge demoralizing effort. So best to dry fit just like this at this point. And then you can see how we've got this recessed pocket here where your insulation strip can get tucked down into all the way around once that's installed. And you'll cut a piece that's a little bit thicker than that, maybe another inch and a half thicker, so that it rides up about this high and is tucked all the way down in, so that when you put your insulating blanket down up against this, and then you fill this whole area with the mortar's pushing up against this and making that seal nice and keeping it intact. One other thing I would point out for you is that when you're marking this out, put the finished side, so like on all the pieces you'll notice there's a finished side and then there's a rough side, and that's because they get poured in a mold. The rough side is always the part that's exposed. So on the cap, you want the finished side down. So we always try to get as much of the finished sides to the flue gas side. So on the rough sides, like all of these are rough sides and the smooth side is on the inside. So we just try to, just as a pointer, these put the rough side up when you mark this all out so that it installs properly. Okay, that's about it. We'll put this cap on, and then you can see how this will sit on the brickwork. So the question of how do you get, perhaps, you wonder how do you get your brickwork to the perfect height? Well, it's going to depend on how you did your core. So like this core is right on the floor. So our brickwork is going to finish out right around 7'1", 7'1.5", and that's where it's this lip will sit down on the brickwork. Now, if you elevated your core so that your bench is a little higher for seating, then you're going to adjust your finish height accordingly. But the bottom line is what you're shooting for is about 5 3/8 inches above this lid is the finish height of your brick. So once you get this core up, you can say, I need to add 5 1/4 inches, 5 3/8 inches from this height, and that is going to be the finish Now you can go higher than that, but at that point, that's where this sits down. So you can put this down and then you put your caps on, or you can leave it just like that. That's fine. Nobody can really see at 7 foot 2 inches in the air anyway. A lot of times we just leave them open. There's no cap over the brickwork spanning all of this. It's just you put the mortar in there and that's it. And, other times, sometimes you'll bring the brickwork all the way to the ceiling because that's the look you're going for. So however you finish it, but this damper scaffold and this damper needs to get installed when you get to, when the exterior masonry is 5 1/4 to 5 3/8 of an inch above this cap. That's the point where this goes in, and then you can make your chimney connection from there. We got a little extra here, right? Because we widened this out. You're just trying to close the gap. So there's just a 1 inch strip here. You're going to cut and tape on there. Also, what I do is I hold this cardboard up a course of brick to adjust for that extra 3 inches of height that this core has with that new lid. So I just support it up on brick. Once it's in like this, you can probably take the brick out, but what I typically do when we're laying is just get that first course in and slush mud right up against it. If mud comes right up in contact with this, it's 100% not a problem. So we can just elevate the cardboard up that 2.5 inches, and then cardboard is plenty high, gets all the way to the top of the cap so that we can finish this properly. So right here, I just cut out, this is not the actual cover for the door. Once we get the brick up, tomorrow when we set that door on there, I'm gonna finish the trace and cut that cardboard out. I like to do it that way because I've tried to do it before. I've tried to cut the cardboard out prior to taping it on there, but if you're off even 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, now your cardboard is off. So this one here is a little easier because you've actually got the bake oven trim plate to map that one out. So that one works pretty well. And then the only other thing that we don't see here now is we are going to cut here and here about a 15-inch swath here for the air to kind of come up and not come in contact with this, and then when we lay the brick, we'll slush that in. So I'll show you how to do that too, but that's about it for the cardboard. So that's the adjustments for the top then, is that you're just gonna cut a couple of strips. I use the little strip of cardboard that comes with the bake oven trim plate that kind of wraps the bake oven trim plate. Just cut a few strips out of that and take those on there, and then you're in good shape. The only other tip I would give you with the cardboard is the best way to put it on, there's always a bow to the cardboard. It's better to put it on so the bow is like this, so it's flaring out on the corners, because that way when you pull it in and tape it, it's compressing itself to the core. But if it bows out this way, it's just always going to fight you and always be pushing out on your brick as you backfill. So that's what you kind of want to avoid. All right, so just a little bit on the bake oven trim plate when you're putting this on. It's nice, you can get the core up in a day. And you could probably put this on the same day, but the mortar isn't set up. So I always wait for the second day to get this bake oven trim plate put on. That way, everything is tight, the mortar's solidified enough where things aren't gonna move on you when you start hammer drilling. Especially, this one is very close to the bottom of that bake oven floor, and so you can have some breakage if the joint is soft there. So, and it's just hammer drill in and then fasten these down. And the goal is to get it so that there's just a little bit of overhang here. I mean, like a 16th maybe. And here too, so that when you put the bake oven door on, those screws come in on the back side, those screws hit here and they pull that door in. That's what you're shooting for. Okay. Alrighty.